Is there any evidence to support the Book of Mormon? I love this question and find that the Book of Mormon falls victim to many of the classic arguments laid against the Bible by those who don't believe or profess a belief in its teachings. Let's talk about if there is any evidence to support the Book of Mormon.
I promise that as you ponder what you study, the windows of heaven will open, and you will receive answers to your own questions.
Today's topic is going to be a little different than many of the other topics that we've covered. And as a child, I found them fascinating and full of life lessons that helped me become a good neighbor, son, brother, friend, student, husband, father, employee, manager, employer. It helped me in all of these roles as I navigated the complexity of life. I grew in my love for Jesus and those who took upon themselves his name. I also grew up listening to the stories of the Bible and found that it had the same or a similar impact upon me. As I grew older, I began to be aware of those who neither believed in the Book of Mormon or the Bible, some who believed in the Bible but not the Book of Mormon, and some who believed in the Book of Mormon but not the Bible. Each of these groups seeking evidence before they were going to pursue a deeper relationship with these texts. During my college years, I studied communications and began to understand how precarious communication is, how psychological of an experience, and how transmitting stories from the past to the present is a very complicated and sophisticated endeavor. I began to be more aware of other cultures, traditions, faiths, peoples, and belief systems. And over a lifetime, I've come to be aware of what I consider to be two very powerful truths. One, stories are powerful in their ability to move the human heart. And two, many of the most impactful stories that I've heard in my life cannot be proven through historical data. Now, neither of these truths suggest that the stories in the Bible and the Book of Mormon cannot be proven or that there's no evidence for them, nor does it suggest that they are historically inaccurate. Simply put, history, historical texts taken from the past, have always been and always will be subject to debate. Evidence comes in a very fragile way, and even when the evidence is concrete, listeners can choose whether or not to believe that evidence to be sufficient for any number of reasons. Now, I have found the Bible, the Book of Mormon, and my American history studies to be all fraught with the same dilemma. They are told from a specific perspective, representing only a limited view of reality. And frankly, this is the case for every story that's ever told, every movie that's ever made, every book that's ever written. They are laden with an intent to persuade. And the purpose for which they were created is not always related to the means by which they are measured. There are vast bodies of literature set up to provide evidence for the exact location of the Tower of Babel, or perhaps where the city of Sodom and Gomorrah were before they were destroyed, where Jesus Christ's actual tomb was, where the crosses were pounded into the ground. And yet, every one of these is up for dispute. There are competing groups with different motivations trying to prove that their theories are true. I'm not inclined to play that game. Now, while I appreciate the great deal of work that others do to seek out and publish evidences to support the historical texts, I personally measure these stories by other measures. I'm impressed in both the Bible and the Book of Mormon by the elaborate, intricate internal consistencies featuring complex, interconnected narratives that span hundreds, thousands of years with many different authors, voices, writing styles, linguistic features, and names that would have required vast resources and time to create, if not real. I also find the interconnected timelines between the Book of Mormon and the Bible to be a fascinating and highly accurate matchup. I also find the interconnected timelines between the Book of Mormon and the Bible to match up in the most amazing ways. What I'm saying is that I found evidences that support my way of seeing these texts, my way of thinking, what I need in order to embrace and accept the texts before me. But my evidences may not work for others. And what others find don't always work for me. That is the nature of history and the human experience. As you study the Book of Mormon and the Bible, I hope that your journey is as rewarding as mine has been. Full of truth, full of wisdom, full of insights, full of faith, and full of evidences that satisfy you within and help you make sense of these texts and the world that we live in. Now, if you like what you're seeing, you may like this longer episode that we've created about the differences between the Bible and the Book of Mormon. Stay tuned.